Next up in our Setup to Succeed series, we're going to take a look at standard cost codes. A lot of our clients will already be familiar with cost codes. They're using them in their current accounting software, so they already have that list in place and they're easily able to bring them over into Intacct. But we do certainly have clients that are coming from an accounting software that doesn't support the use of cost codes, so they're not familiar with what they are and they may be using them, through a GL account or something like that, but not in the true sense of the word. So if you're not familiar with cost codes, it's not something that you're currently using, then I recommend that you Google that. And there's a really good article here from Procore that gives you some good information on cost codes. And it has actually got a link in here to the CSI master format, which is recognized across the country, the numbering structure that's used for the master format. So you could go through that and pick out the ones that are related to your company and that you'll be using going forward. So in Intacct then, in the projects module, there is a standard cost code catalog, which is where your standard cost codes are going to live for you to be able to easily pull them onto a project. And when you get locked down with your cost code list, you may already have that in place. You're going to do this as an import template. So you're not going to be manually entering in all of your cost codes because there are some companies that will have thousands of these. You're definitely going to want to bring them in as an import. So let's just take a look first at the actual setup for the cost code, and then we're going to go over and look at an import template. So I'm going to click into an existing cost code that I have here for my procurement and contracting requirements. And you'll see my numbering structure here is 000000. And then here are my child cost codes that fall under that, which are 002000, so on and so forth. So you will come up with the numbering structure. Maybe you follow the master format, that's fine. And you're going to want to keep that kind of consistent throughout your cost codes. And you are going to want to make sure that you use leading zeros. So you're not going to want to have just 10000. You're going to want to have 010000. So if I come in here and I look at this, I'm going to hit edit. I'm going to put in my ID, which is your numbering structure. Once that is saved in Intacct, it's a locked field. You're not going to be able to edit the ID. So you can, of course, delete out the cost code and then enter a new one if you made a mistake on that. But the ID becomes a locked field always in Intacct when it's been saved. So the name here then is procurement and contracting requirements. That can be changed. The description can be put in and that can be changed. Status is going to be active. You can use priority if you want to prioritize your cost codes. That's generally not used. We don't see. And then parent, if it is a child cost code, will be linked here. Item is going to be required if a cost code is billable, which you absolutely want it to be. So you're going to want to check it off as billable and you're going to want to assign an item. And I wouldn't get too bogged down by which item you're assigning here. I would just assign the same item for all of your cost codes. So maybe you want to set up an item and you just want to call it general. So maybe you want to just do non-inventory, general. GL group could be general. You might want to add that on the fly as well, which you can absolutely do. Just call it general, save it, apply it here, and then you're going to save that item, and then you can apply your general item across all of your cost codes, or just choose one that's already existing, like the contract item, like I've done. Definitely want it to be billable. You can use milestones if that's something that you're interested in. I think we have other videos which go into that. And if a cost code is being utilized, we haven't seen any clients use this. And then WBS code can be used as well for when you're assigning your cost codes to your project to easily pull them in. And then Precon is a custom field that I have entered on my standard cost code catalog so that I can mark my pre-construction cost codes, and then I can easily find them through filtering when I'm adding my cost codes to my project. So custom fields are available across Intacct. They're unlimited, and I absolutely recommend that when you're setting up your system, you get your custom fields set up. So wherever in Intacct you see missing fields that you'd like additional information, you can use custom field to get that information into the system. And then down here are your standard cost types. So this is a parent cost code. So I do not have any cost types assigned to my parent cost code because I am not going to be putting in any transactions against my parent cost code. I'm only going to be putting in transactions to my child cost codes. So I'm going to cancel out of here, and I'm going to take a look then at one of my child cost codes. So I'm going to take a look at general conditions, edit on this. So ID, once again, becomes a locked field. You put your name. You don't have to put in a description if you want. Make sure it's active. Don't need priority. And here I'm saying this is a child cost code of my procurement and contracting. And then item again, contract item, I've marked this as billable. You can use WBS code if you need a custom field, put them in. So this cost code then, because it's child cost code, I'm going to be putting in transactions against this, and I do want to have cost types assigned to it. So for this particular cost code, I just have other and overhead assigned. But if you click here, you can see your list of standard cost types come up. So like I said, you're not going to be putting in your cost codes manually. You're going to be doing that as an import. And if you click the import button here, it doesn't actually give you the option to download the template. So in order to get the template for that, we're going to hit our drop down here, and we're going to hop over to the company module. And on the setup tab, we're going to click import data or import data, or however it is that you say that. When I get in here, then I'm going to hit Control F on my keyboard, and I'm going to type in cost code. So it brings me down to the section here for cost codes. And I'm going to go to the standard cost codes, and I'm going to hit the template button over here to download that template. So this is the template that I want to open up so that I can get my cost codes uploaded into the system. So here's the file. I'm going to make this a little bigger and hit enable editing. And what I like to do with these templates is go to my find and select and find all of the required yes fields within the template and highlight them. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to find next and highlight all of the fields that are required, because when you're bringing in your imports, if you don't have the required fields in, you're going to get a bunch of errors and you're going to be slowed down with getting all of that information in. So I do recommend that you go through and you highlight all of the required fields to make sure that you do have those columns filled in. So like I would keep going with that, but you know yourself, you're going to do that yourself. So standard task ID, I just wanted to mention as well, cost code was repurposed from task. So I can see here that task, it's standard task, that's actually just standard cost code. So the system was already using task, and then when they built it out for construction, they just repurposed task for cost code. So they're going to be the same thing. So your ID, your name, item, you want to make it billable. So this is going to be, and it says here, valid values, true, T equals billable, F equals non-billable. So you're going to make it T because it is going to be a billable cost code. And keep going across here, you know, your milestone, utilize priority, time type, WBS code, and then your parent standard task ID. So like I was saying, general requirements was a child of procurement. So your parent would go in this column. And then over here, you have your standard cost types. So you're going to assign your cost types to your cost codes when you're doing your import. And my pre-con custom field also shows on the template. And then if I click over to this tab, it actually gives me an example of what you can bring in. So the ID, name, description, item, billable. So these are not marked as billable. Where they are marked as billable, they do have an item because an item is required if a cost code is marked as billable. You're going to want to make them all billable, so you're going to need an item on all of them. Well, that is our recommendation anyway. And then you're going to assign your cost types, and you're going to bring in that import. So once you have it all filled out, obviously that is going to take a bit of time. You'll go back into Intacct, and you can actually do it from this company setup checklist. You can hit the import button here, and you can choose that file. And when you're getting the results for that, then let's say there's any errors, you want to know where that goes to, you're going to pop in your email address here. And let's say you're bringing in thousands of cost codes. I would recommend that you process this offline so that you're not, stuck here waiting for it to load up while that's coming in. So I would say process offline, put in your email address, choose the file, to get that imported. You can also do the import over in projects in the standard cost code catalogs section. So we do see the import button here. We couldn't download the template from here, but we can do the import here as well. So either place you can go to do that. But there's quite a lot of information that needs to go onto that template. You need to make sure that you have your numbering structure in place. And then you want to make sure that you have your cost types locked down before you bring that in, because you don't want to have to then go ahead and add all those cost types after the fact. So in the next video, then we're going to take a look at our cost types.